What is up, everybody? It's me, Juniper Blue Mystique. I am an Ascension Master, Master Healer, and Divine Guide. If you're watching my channel, then you already know I am the one who brought the Ascension about. If not, then I ask you to sit back and relax because I have all of the proof of that. Okay? I've done it through clearing Mount Shasta, activating pyramids, raising Atlantis, freeing Jesus' soul. I'm going to tell you exactly today what the eternal return of Christ was because I finally understand the full brevity of it. I didn't in the beginning because it's part of my awakening. So I thought it was just me uniting Jesus and Mary Magdalene and undoing the false Holy Grail, and that is not true. The return of Christ has now occurred since I dried up the Nile on the 24th. Okay? The last workshop that I posted on my channel, which barely anybody has watched, 7997, was me clearing the Nile. They put my feet in the water, then I turned it blood red, and then I dried it up. And I understand what happened to Sekhmet because I had to call back my power from that lifetime. So I've talked about in my last video of Revelations 21 why everybody can't ascend. Okay? You can't ascend if you choose darkness of any kind. Period. It's like, get the fuck out of here. Okay? That's the truth. Because we don't want darkness here ever again. And the return of Christ was way more than what I thought it was. It is me. And it was me calling back my power from every lifetime. And you can watch it play out on my channel. I didn't realize that. It started with Adam and Eve. I had to sit on Saturn and I rose Atlantis. I cleared my contract there because I died there. So each lifetime that I was murdered in, I had to call back my power from. I had to do opposite of what the darkness got me with. Okay? It started with Adam and Eve. I had to do the opposite of what the darkness got me with. I had to fight that battle, which I did, and I won, which took me through that portal and undid the darkness there. Then became the journey of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. That was another lifetime of mine. And I think it's maybe because I'm not Jesus, the masculine form, that people just have a really hard time understanding what is happening. So if I was a guy, again, maybe people would listen better. But you have to remember is I have a male counterpart. Just because he hasn't chose to step up into his life purpose doesn't mean that I have not. Okay. So the return of Christ is every lifetime that I had, I called back my power on. So as God was forsaken and was snuffed out, murdered through darkness, that's what I had to come back and undo. I undid it from Adam and Eve. That plays out on my channel. I sat on Saturn, lassoed Atlantis, rose it out of the water after I cleared my contract. Then I had to clear all karma back to Adam and Eve, which I did. Very painfully so. Then uniting my twin flame and I. That was a battle that took me a year to battle and fight for his soul back, which I won. And it took my arm out. It took lots of things out. I took a very big sacrifice for these things. But I did it, and I did it against judgment on my channel and people treating me not so great during the whole time and choosing darkness and judgment and things like that. And it hurts. It hurts when that happens. But this is the reality, you guys. Then came the life of Sekhmet, which started to unfold when I began activating the masculine pyramids with the energy of my DM. And now here's the thing with Sekhmet. If you watch the video on the 24th, I did the workshop where they put my feet in the water. They were giving us all these gifts and they put my feet in the water. They called me the Queen of the Nile. They said I was Sekhmet. Then the Nile turned blood red, and I found out what the blood was. I talked about that in the last video I did about Revelations and what you have to do to ascend, because you don't just get to ascend. Okay, and this is why, because just the attacks that I felt from people alone during this journey, the fact that people can't even really see God, yeah, that's a requirement for the ascension. Okay, you have to choose light over dark or you don't get to ascend, because it will never be allowed to happen again. So that's the thing, is I had to come in, and this makes sense because right before I did the Sekhmet, it was constant attacks against me. Again, it was attacks of money, which is still being thrown at me. I'll be homeless, I'll be all these kinds of things, and I have to not listen to those. It was again attacks of my DM that whole entire time. I had to not listen to that. And in the Bible, it talks about how Sekhmet was duped with alcohol. Well, she was murdered. And so I get a little bit like something didn't feel right about that whole story. When I called my power back in the last video that I did, you guys have to watch my channel because I've posted it on there. It's just people are refusing to watch. They're in assumptions. They think it's fake, but I'm going to tell you right now who I am is very real. And the return of Christ has occurred, and it wasn't just Jesus coming out of the sky. It took me every lifetime I've had that I was murdered to call back my power from and to go against the darkness in which took me out. Sekhmet was murdered. They didn't just feed her alcohol. They duped her again, and she was murdered, and I had to call that back. And that happened this time too. It was self-sabotage that I had to pay attention to. It was those kinds of things that I had to go against. And that's why I'm talking to you guys, is because the true return of Christ was all of it. It was me calling my power back from every lifetime, 555, that the darkness came in here and snuffed out the light. And every person on this planet has taken part of it. Do you have a cross with Jesus on it? Burn that shit. I wouldn't. I would not have that. And you can go all religious on me all you want, but you're going against God. Okay? It was bullshit what they did to him. They signed the false Holy Grail in his blood, and that is why they have him on a cross. And it's more like a fuck you. Okay? This is true. This is my angst because I'm realizing who I am fully now. I always knew I was the one bringing about the ascension, but I am the return of Christ. And it's hard for me to swallow because even after I've successfully done all of that, I feel empty. I just feel empty and alone. My DM's not here. People judge. People still are refusing to see it. And it's like, this is the return of Christ. This is what we're supposed to be doing right now. And I've dried up the Nile. Okay, in physical form, it's already happening, I'm sure. So when I turned it blood, I asked Spirit what the blood was. Over the last 4 years, I have spent clearing out this planet. Those that choose not to see God cannot stay here. I've said that. Any darkness that was shed, I had to clear it out. All the bodies that I cleared out from Mount Shasta, from the Euphrates River, from underneath the White House, from all over the planet. Okay, all of it is being washed out. All of that blood that I am cleansing is what the Nile represents of turning blood. Now, what's ironic is there was a beer spill in Japan Lake, and it turned the whole lake blood red. This happened a day or two after I did the Nile. And in the Bible, it literally says they poured beer down the river to get Sekhmet to stop the bloodshed. And what happened was she was duped. She was murdered. That's why she didn't finish in that lifetime. But I did in this lifetime. So that's my point, is every other time I've tried to take my power back, I didn't succeed. But I did this lifetime. I did it against everything. And that's the key for everybody, is if you choose darkness over light, you don't get to ascend. Every turn right now is about self-growth. It's about letting go of the darkness, because that is the only way to get you to stay here. The return of Christ has occurred, and I did it. I brought it all about. It was clearing every lifetime I've had that the darkness took away my light, and I've had to go against it each time, and it makes sense now. So Sekhmet was murdered, okay? She wasn't just duped by alcohol. That's what made me so mad. I'm like, as a god, you really think that filling a river full of alcohol is going to stop her? No. And it's not just about, oh, I'm going to come and kill everybody. That's what the darkness did to me. That's what the darkness did to anything of the light on this planet. And it's time for them to feel the wrath. That's how I feel about it. And it is true that the courses and the workshops that I did are your path through the ascension. You can do it all on your own all you want. But I didn't bring it about without giving you the opportunities to ascend. That's the most beautiful part. My painting that I did up here takes you through that portal alone. I believe in these things more now than ever. I've always questioned myself. I've always let other people's doubt creep on in. And when I did the Nile, I understood now what they were telling me. Everything fully made sense through the 12 gates and how you have to get through heaven. That's why I did the Revelations post. Okay, that's why I said this is why not everybody gets to ascend. First of all, you know, we were supposed to even have starseeds and light workers be a part of my journey, and they didn't even make it. Just because you're here does not guarantee you anything. I don't care if you're a starseed and a light worker. I don't care if you already have all this light within your heart. If you make choices to go against the light, you won't make it. You have to make it through all 13 gates. The 13th was cut off from this planet. So honestly, you've all been in hell trying to work your way back through. And so I made it. I actually did it. I actually succeeded. I called back all my power from every lifetime. I literally was like thinking, I did a video of everything I did for the return of Christ, and it's false because it wasn't done yet. I hadn't called back from my power from Sekhmet lifetime, but I did now. That's the Nile. That completed the journey. Okay? The Nile is a representative of the end because it completed the journey of God calling her power back. Okay? Is there a masculine Jesus? Yes. He just hasn't stepped up yet. There's a masculine and a feminine God. Okay? Everybody's hyper-focused on Jesus and did not see me coming. Little did they know, they stole Jesus' soul from you, and I had to save it back. Okay? I did that. That was when my DM died, and I got a new one. After I called his soul back, my DM refused to come out of the darkness, and he couldn't stay. So they picked somebody with a pure heart who still isn't showing up, unfortunately. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on with that. Is there a male form? Yes. I have a twin flame. We're supposed to be together. That is the only component that did not fold out yet, but it has to. It has to. That's why I'm still getting tower moments. He probably is too, because he's just not stepping up. But that's the point, is that you have to step up. You have to go against the darkness if you want to ascend. That's exactly what I had to do for the return of Christ. Every lifetime I had. And I didn't realize that until just the other day. I knew it was coming through me. I still had a hard time putting a title on myself. But I've said I had to clear back my lifetimes from Adam and Eve. That was one of my lifetimes. Jesus and Mary Magdalene was my other. I had another where I didn't wake up. I had to clear that karma as well. Trust me. I had a baby that was murdered this lifetime. I just couldn't respond the way I did the first time. Okay? So all of my past lives had to play out. I had to clear the karma, and I had to call my power back. That means I had to go against the darkness for what it once did to me to cause it to take over this planet. Okay? So I had to go against all nudges. I had to go against all those little, things that come and get you. Ooh, eat this instead. Ooh, do these drugs. Ooh, do this. They don't love you. Ooh, do that. Don't go to this. Don't do that. I had to go against every ego, every bit of the shadow piece, all the way from Adam and Eve is where I started it. I battled that, and then I won, and I got to clear that portal. I got to take my power back. I got to take out the fallen shadow, the fallen goddess. Okay? Each lifetime it's there. And Sekhmet was murdered as well. So when the Bible talks about, oh, they duped her with beer in the river, that's insulting to me, because I know now for a fact she was murdered. Because when I dried up the Nile after turning it blood red, I called my lifetime back. And I saw that. So the darkness came in and killed Sekhmet. Got her to self-sabotage. And that's exactly what that represented. And I almost didn't make that part because that's the same thing that was happening to me. And it didn't matter if I reached out for help. I didn't have help. And I surely don't have my DM, which I wish I did. Not physically, maybe some energetically, right? But I really wish he was right by my side, because it all makes sense to me now. This is the return of Christ, and it happened right in front of all of us, including me, because I'm still like going, oh my gosh, it all makes sense now. So when I died in Atlantis, I wrote a contract that it would never rise again because I was murdered then too. Then I rose and I freed Jesus' soul because he was murdered. Our souls were ripped apart, which caused me to be murdered in that lifetime as well. My DM is also my soul. Twin souls, the same soul. There's just also a soulmate in there. So he has a masculine aspect of him. He has his own little personality and everything, his own little soul. But then it's also, and I don't mean little, right? He has an amazing soul. But then it's also my soul in there. So that's a twin soul. Okay? So That's that point. But everybody hyper focuses on one individual instead of realizing that God was always two, masculine and feminine. God was here representative in two forms, masculine and feminine. I am what they're calling the Queen of the Nile, the Queen of Life. I am the one. My DM is too. He just hasn't risen up into that. He should be right by my side. And I think that's what everybody hyper focuses on, and maybe why they're not fully understanding what the return of Christ is. Because even I did that. Even I was like, okay, well, I returned Jesus and Mary Magdalene. It was a false holy grail in that lifetime, and I still wasn't done. Then it was Sekhmet, and I had no idea that challenge was there. I did all of these challenges blindly. Okay, I started to be attacked again. You guys don't know this. I had lots of feelings of, oh, I should just go smoke. Oh, I should just go do this. And I ignored them all. I focused really, really hard to take my power back again. Okay, because I was struggling. I've been attacked left and right. This is true. And then all of a sudden, when I saw clearly, it was just, I was like, something's wrong here. And I lifted my head up a little bit more. And then that is when I succeeded in that past lifetime. So the same thing happened. They filled the river of alcohol to distract her for self-sabotage. She was murdered. Okay, metaphorically, really speaking. That's just how they depict things in the Bible for you. Is they give you these little frou-frou-y versions. Oh, Jesus died on the cross. No, the cross is false because they murdered him, and they're using his blood to keep you out from God. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So this is why I'm like, that's insulting what the Bible does. It's so insulting, the lies that they tell you. The lies that they're feeding everybody with. So keep going to church. Keep shoving that falsehood down your throat, and you won't remain, unfortunately. The return of Christ is real. It's very powerful, and it matters in that just because I've come back and I reclaimed my planet, which I did, I successfully did it. They kept telling me, even I didn't understand, and I didn't. Because it's part of my own awakening. And then the full thing hit me. I'm like, they murdered Sekhmet. They lied to you just thinking they gave her beer to stop her bloodthirst. They stopped her from the return of Christ completely. Okay, in that lifetime, I was this close. You understand? So it's different lifetimes that Christ was snuffed out. And I actually called each one of them back. And I undid all of the darkness. And so now the choice remains on this earth is people either choose the light or they choose the darkness. And it's not just one time. You have to choose it 13 times. You have 13 tests of God. That is through the 13 portal gates of heaven. So they had 12 dark gates and they closed off the 13th. Okay? I've cut off all the 12 dark gates, took out the fallen angels completely, and opened up heaven again. But now it's on everybody else to see the truth. It's on everybody else to hear the call of God. And barely anybody can even watch my videos. And I'm like, what more can I do to get people to understand that the return of Christ played out right in front of your eyes? Right in front of mine, too, because I was the one doing it. It was my lifetimes. It's a lot to process. It's a lot to understand that those were my lifetimes. But it's true, it wasn't just Jesus one. It was Adam and Eve. Then it was Jesus and Mary Magdalene and undoing the false Holy Grail, which is why they depicted him on a false cross, because our real cross is the Ankh. You guys, it's all right here. I have all the answers. The real cross was the Ankh, which they gave to me in my DM when I did the Nile, and I would love him next to me wearing that Ankh. That would mean the world to me. Oh my gosh, it makes so much sense now. They took that from us. They took our God, me, and depicted me murdered on the cross, my masculine form, my DM. And that was a lie. John the Apostle poisoned him, took him 20-30 minutes to bleed out from the inside out. Then they took his blood and wrote a false Holy Grail, which kept all of you locked down. They cut off heaven from this earth. That's when all of the Jews were murdered, because that's where Jesus was. That's when the Dead Sea Scrolls were made. Okay? Then it was Sekhmet. Sekhmet was the Egyptian goddess. Me was another lifetime. That is when I dried out the Nile, turned it blood red. They put my feet in the water. I turned it blood red and I dried it out because that is all the blood I'm cleansing off this planet. And I succeeded all the way through. That's why it dried out. The return is done. So the return of Christ has completely occurred in front of all of us, including me. And it was my lives that I was calling back, you guys. But it wasn't just Jesus and Mary Magdalene. It was Adam and Eve, Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and Sekhmet. And Sekhmet was murdered. She didn't just get duped by alcohol, and that's what calmed her thirst for blood. Like, that's insulting. And this is what they did. This is what they have done the whole entire time. And you still want to follow those people to hell? This is like, I'm not talking about, I'm saying in general. This is what people have been listening to. And this is my lives that I'm processing now. And by golly, I'm like pissed. I'm like, yeah, that blood deserves to flow through that river and disappear from here. It needs to, and it needs to now. I'll be so glad when I see all this fall, because it is. There is no going back. There is no undoing what I did. I did it. I succeeded in this lifetime. Looking just like all of you. Not being presented as Sekhmet, even though that is another lifetime of mine. They gave me all that armor. I know because I had to clear it. That was when I did the Nile, and I called my power back from that lifetime. And then, ironically so, Japan had this beer thing spill all this beer stuff into their river and turn it blood red. You guys, there's no coincidences here. That was validations, but I got a dislike on that, and people didn't even watch my video. That's what I mean. It's like we are mocking God. Not we. I don't. I'm not mocking myself or my DM. I want him to have his power. I want him to feel what I feel, but even better. Because when he and I come together, it's so powerful. Oh, it was such a beautiful feeling, and he's never got to feel it. Because he's being duped too. And I just can't believe that all these people would choose to listen to these lies, this poison, this shit that they keep feeding us. I won't. I sure as hell won't. And believe me, right now, my life is being presented really rough because of that Sekhmet, because of crossing the Nile. And I have to choose not to play into it. That's sabotage. So yeah, I could be homeless. Here we are, July 1st. My DM didn't come, so I can't work as normal and do all these things. But you know what? I succeeded. I did not play into any of the darkness. And I've watched people fall off of my path as I make it through these portals. And then you go, just like they said, not everybody was meant to be here. Some people are meant to keep you down and distract you. And it's your job to decipher the darkness to the light, or you don't get to stay. And I'm in that. Like, I'm like, yep, God, that's right. Because I surely as hell won't go through that again. I worked so hard to get my power back through all those lifetimes, and I didn't understand it. I did it blindly, through the veil. Just like everybody else. Actually, no, more than everybody else, because everybody else gets to awaken. But the truth of the matter is you don't just get to get those activations. You don't just get to rise because Christ has returned, which wasn't just Jesus. I thought that was it too. And I was wrong. It was Adam and Eve, Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and Sekhmet. And that is why the Nile finally dried up with Sekhmet, because that was my final lifetime that I had to clear and call back for the return of Christ. So the return of Christ had to occur with all those lifetimes that were taken from God, called back from the darkness. And I had to do the same thing as the opposite of what I did in that lifetime. So what I fell prey to that lifetime, I could not fall prey to in this one. And you guys have to do the same thing. That is why I did the shadow workshop. If you do my shadow healing course, it has 2 guided meditations in there. That and Stepping Stones through Awakening. Then all you have to do is choose light through the portals. And that's it. But most people can't even listen to my videos. A lot of people don't even want to do a donation of $40 half the time for the healings, and they're priceless. This is amazing to me. It is amazing to me what we couldn't see, to what the truth really is. Because the veil has been lifted completely off of me because I called back every lifetime now. That's why I got the download of the Revelations 12, 21, 12, and 13 and what it means. And I did that video and only 29 people watched it so far. I dried up the Nile. That means it's the end of days. So either you choose light to stay or you don't. And the blood in the Nile is representative of all the blood that I am shedding off of this planet. And that is why in the Bible they said, oh, they stopped Sekhmet by filling it with beer. So basically what they did was the shadow got in and killed her. That's why I had to call back my lifetime from that one. And this time it didn't work. I did not get duped this time. I had everything going against me and I still had to present with love and do what God told me to do. And that's exactly what I did. It didn't matter how hard it was, 555. It didn't matter how many people thought I was crazy. It didn't matter how many people were coming against me. It didn't matter how alone I felt because my DM didn't show up, which that part almost made me want to quit. But I didn't. I kept going and I kept going and I kept going. And so the return of Christ has now been completed. I was wrong because I did a video and everything I did for the return of Christ. I didn't have it done yet. I didn't know. And now that it's complete, Spirit's like, this is the return of Christ. That's why they were celebrating me in that video. That's why all the angels, everybody's celebrating. Because that was the completion of the return of Christ. That's why the Nile dried up. And I did it. And I wasn't duped by any beer. Although I find that very just in your face of, see, we told you. But then I even got a dislike. So they're disliking God. So that shows you how many people cannot stay. It shows you how many people are not going to stay here. And honestly, I used to feel bad about that. But after the pain that I went through to call back all those lifetimes and seeing how many people can't even see what it was and how I've been treated, we've got a long way to go with understanding what is light and dark. And so when people choose not to stay, that's okay. Because I will never allow darkness in again. Ever. Darkness will never be allowed in again into this planet. Or into the light of God. Ever. So I tell you, it is your job. If you did those courses with me in workshops, it still doesn't guarantee you. You have to choose the light over the dark. It just got you through everything very quickly. Because I'm the one who brought it about. But you still have to make the choices into the light and not the dark. What is the darkness? The darkness represents in money. Having a fear of money. Making money, allowing money to control you. That is part of it. Your mind, letting your mind control you. The darkness, people around you that are not of the light. It's allowing darkness to dupe you. And it depends on where you let it in the first time. To where you are supposed to not let it in again. That's the keys through the Ascension, you guys. The whole entire things that I did for the return of Christ are calling back my power for every lifetime. Adam and Eve, Jesus and Mary Magdalene, undid the false Holy Grail, took down the false goddess, took down all of the darkness, the fallen angels, every bit of it, and called my power back in my lifetimes from each lifetime. Then Sekhmet as well. Did not fall prey to how Sekhmet fell prey. I had to undo it how it was done to me the first time. And was it easy? Heck no. It was very lonely. It was very difficult. And I had to do it against a judgment. And having people trying to take me down. Having people trying to put me out. And then the moment I succeeded, they leave the channel. Pay attention. When I did the last video where I talked about Revelations 21:12, I specifically said in there that you have to meet certain criteria to ascend. It is not just given, my friends. And I've said this time and time again. It's a rite of passage. You don't just get those DNA activations. They are not just given to you. It's almost like repenting, right? How they would talk about repenting. But you have to do it the opposite of what you did at the first time. It is your lives. It is your karma. It is your things that you have to undo. We reap what we sow. That's what Judgment Day is. This makes so much sense, you guys. I have all the answers now. And I'm just like, I had no clue. I mean, I knew what I was doing was big. I knew it mattered. I knew it was God-driven. And I knew it was bigger than even I was, but I didn't realize who I was. I didn't realize how big I was. I didn't realize, oh my God, the chills I just got. I didn't know what I was doing. Okay? I knew what I was doing was changing the world. God told me that from day one, that I was not like anybody else, and I was here to change the world. I just thought I was going to do it through healings. Curing cancer, because I could do that. Yes, I can do that. I've healed heart attacks. I've healed all kinds of things. And I thought, oh, cool, I'm a different kind of healer. It was not that at all. The return of Christ was not just Jesus and Mary Magdalene. It was not just undoing that false holy grail. I had to clear every lifetime. And I did it. I succeeded through every one, including Sekhmet. Called back my power. Called it back. Went against temptations. Blood in the beer in the river. I don't drink beer. So technically speaking, that was a false one. That would have been my original DM. He liked alcohol. I never did. So that doesn't make sense. Okay. So what they're telling you is just like they did with Jesus on the cross, is this is how I hurt you. Now I'm going to have you celebrate it. Yay, we poured beer in the river for Sekhmet to stop the bloodshed. Fuck you. I would do that bloodshed 20 times over. Get the fuck out of here. That's how I feel about it. What they did was they duped her. Darkness came in and took her weakness, and she just wasn't strong enough. And she died. And that is why the return did not get completed that lifetime. This is why they've told me people have tried to do this before and didn't succeed. I have tried to do this before and I did not succeed. I died. I didn't die this time. I kept going and I kept going and I completed it. And it's not done. We still have stuff to do. The DM needs to come in because we're out of balance. There can be blood on his hands if he doesn't come through. So we're not done. Okay? We are not done, and the whole entire collective soul now has to choose light over dark. Even if you're watching me, can you ascend? Yes. But just because you're watching me, I cannot force your decisions. I can't force you to do my Stepping Stones through Awakening course. I can't force you to do my Healing Your Shadow. I can't force you to go through those gates and choose lights every time. Everything you do is through your free will and on you. But I can absolutely unequivocally tell you the truth. I can show you the correct path. I can show you what they've done to you. And it makes me angry. And I'm not here to be angry because that's not my job. I've won. I've won back every lifetime. I've called all my power back and it hurt. It's not just metaphorical. It's not just me going, oh, wouldn't that be nice? Or listen to this story like everybody else is doing, is telling you a story. It was my life and it was very, very, very painful. And it took me everything I had. But I did it. And that is why the new earth is now here. And you either have a choice to choose light or go. And that makes me happy because why would that be a bad thing? Why would somebody dislike that? I posted the short about the river turning blood red in Japan and it was the beer. And yeah, that's funny because it's real. And it was just very much so right along with what I did. And the Bible says that specifically. And so that was really the world saying, see, this is real. And somebody disliked that. They don't watch my videos. They're in judgment. They're not in the light. So the only way that people are going to be pissed is if they don't want the darkness to leave. And those are the kind of people where I'm like, bye-bye. It is not my job. My job is to give you guys what I've gotten and say that it hurt. Okay? And I will never allow hurt again. So you can either choose to rise out of that pain and that shadow and that darkness and stay here with me, because I know those that will. We've got amazing things to come. Talk about a world of God. It's like heaven on earth, and I'm for that. I'm done with the misery and the heart bloodshed and the pain and the sorrow. And constantly, every time I want to go do something, something keeps me down. Screw that. I'm ready for freedom. And I hope you guys are too. Because the whole entire return of Christ just completely played out on my channel. Which side are you on? The battle has been won. So many times people are like, oh, we won. I remember when I rose in Atlantis, one guy was like, oh, we won. We were so far off from there still. We didn't win until now. We didn't win because we didn't win. You have your own battles, okay? I did mine. I called back every lifetime I had, which was for the whole entire collective soul. I brought back heaven's gates. I opened them up. I closed off the darkness. And I took back my light, my soul, which was the return of Christ. And I did it for all my lifetime. So this is why you guys, all of your lives are wrapped up into one. And they are playing out through the gates. You have no choice but to replay. You reaping what you sow. And if you don't make the right choices, then you go to where you came from. You don't go where I'm going. Choice is yours. You can have heaven on earth, or you can remain in darkness, because God doesn't like calling it heaven and hell. It's light or dark. You can remain in the absence of light, but you cannot have both ever again. Ever again, because I have successfully brought them back. And it was painful. And I'm glad that we are doing it that way. Because I will never allow darkness through again. We can't. Okay? So the choice is through free will. It's up to you guys. You can choose to listen and to heal and to do what you got to do and to choose light repeatedly, self-growth, going into the best version of yourself, letting go of all that once was. You know, we don't need substances to feel good. We don't need all of that stuff that was not real. It was a falsehood, and it was designed to keep you low. It was designed to keep you out of God. So is the V. Pay attention. Is this more real than real could be? And if you just watch my videos, you can't deny it, because I can't deny it. Spirit showed me the same thing. Like, this is really who you are. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's way bigger than even I knew. Okay, so I encourage you guys to watch the videos, because it is a rite of passage. This is why not everybody will get to go. I was sad. Now I'm like, if they don't want to choose light, bye-bye. If you're disliking God, because the Nile talks about the end of days, it's the end of darkness. It's time for darkness to go. And if somebody's disliking that, that's because they don't want to let the darkness go. And then therefore I'm like, okay, bye-bye. Sweep you, bye-bye. Go fill yourself in the Nile and take off. Because that's the reality of where we're at now. All of that pain, all of that darkness, taking my light, taking God's light out of here, and painfully so. And then what they did with Jesus on the cross, that is the love of my life. He is. That is my other half. Okay? That's upsetting to me. But I'm not going to come with retaliation. I've done what I needed to do. Retaliation has been done. They have no escape. They can't run to their little bunkers and hide out. They can dislike it all they like. But they don't have a choice. This is the end. And I'm so proud. I'm so happy. And those that choose light, those that choose God, have heaven on earth again. And they will never be able to do what they've done before. And now I don't need to read the Bible ever, because it all makes sense to me. And I guarantee if you take what I did, look at the Bible, put it together, you can't deny it. I mean, you can if you're listening to the wrong shit. And to which I would say, bye-bye. You want to go to the darkness? Go. Because this is not... Homie didn't come to play. Homie came to return. And I'm so proud. And I just want my DM to rise. Because without that, I feel people are just like, she's not the return of Christ because she's not Jesus. I am all of that. I am just the feminine form of Jesus, of God. God is feminine and also masculine. There is two, masculine and feminine, and that's what all of you are supposed to be. There is a bit of an imbalance until he comes back and completes his part. So we are not done. By any means, we are not done. So do not get complacent, because now every test is a test of redemption. Every test is light and dark and determines where you go. The choice is yours. If you want to get through everything and bypass it, those that actually worked with me and didn't go into the darkness against me, there's only one who's completed the journey. Others are working their way through still. But even in that completion, we're not done. Still not done. But the return of Christ is now complete. And I thought it was before. And I didn't know it wasn't until Sekhmet lifetime played out. Now that all makes sense, because I didn't know I was Sekhmet until I activated Ecuador on May 13th. They just told me that. Then, this last one with the Nile, I had no idea was coming. I thought I was just getting gifts. And I found out again I was Sekhmet. Then they put my feet in the water. Then I turned the Nile red. Then I dried it up and called on my power back from the lifetime she died in. That is the return of Christ complete. That is why the Nile dried up now, and it represents the end in the Bible. So that's the story of the Bible. It's like God will come back. She will take all of her power back, her and him. It's two. Masculine and feminine, but all the same person. The same soul. But there's a soulmate in there too. And he does have free will. Do you understand? This is why my first DM died. I won his soul back, and he was again starting to choose darkness over light. And God said, enough. Because I've won. To where even my DM couldn't go against me anymore. The division must go. And I'm watching all of this negativity being spewed out all over. People putting people down all the time. Calling them sheeple. Calling them Karens. Just all these assumptions. And it's like, boy, we've got some cleaning up to do. We have some major cleaning up to do. Is God perfect? No. 7D is going to be about learning lessons as well. 5D. Because 5D was the original blueprint. So you don't necessarily have to go into 7D. This painting right here, remember, it's for sale. The Pleiadians gave me that when I created the 7D portal. Whoever purchases that one, which I'm still like, do I really want to sell it? I don't know. But whoever purchases that painting, it's your way through. You just have to choose the light. But it bypasses a lot. Do you understand? Who I am is very real. The return of Christ was very real. And we've got a lot of undoing all of this falsehoods to do. And to really start to shine love through. Because we still lack love in this place very big time. I literally showed proof again of the beer river in Japan. And somebody disliked it. And it blows my mind. Because the real return of Christ is here. And people can't see it. They're disliking it. It shows you how darkness and enslaved everybody really is into that. You like the darkness? Do you really? Because when the veil is completely clear, you're going to realize you don't. It's very painful. There is no love in darkness. There is no joy and no happiness. It's void of all of that. It's very void. You were just manipulated. So don't believe all the stories you hear in the Bible. Sekhmet did not just, yay, beer, I'm done. They killed her. It was the darkness messing with her. And I didn't let it this lifetime, which is why I was able to call that piece back as well. I can see it now. Looking back, I can see all of that played out. And I went against it. I didn't listen. I learned the lesson that I needed to learn in this lifetime and took my power back and dried up the Nile. Then it's the end. And I'm happy. And I used to have guilt for who chose not to stay, but I don't anymore because I won't allow that to hurt me ever again. Will you? This earth needs love. True love. Because that's the only thing that there was just too little of. So it doesn't matter what's coming against you. Didn't matter. I would not have succeeded in Sekhmet because I had somebody from my Alchemy Academy trying to go against me at the same time. I'm like, Like everything negative was coming against me all at once. Everything to say I should not have done that. I need to not listen. I need to focus on money. I need to focus on this. And I didn't listen. And it was in that moment when the Nile came through, phew, and then after that, all the whole download came through. And it's realizing what is light and what is dark, and choosing light every time. That was the return of Christ through every lifetime that God had here, where the darkness snuffed out the light. I was murdered 3 times. Adam and Eve, Jesus, and Sekhmet. 3 murders, 3 returns. 3 times power was called back. I opened all the gates, and now the only ones who get to make it through are the ones willing to do the same. And that makes me happy. I want to find my followers. I want to know who sees God. Everybody else won't make it. Why is that scary? That's your choice, right? It's not to be afraid of. It's you either choose light or darkness. When you think about what the darkness did, why would you choose darkness? Why would you choose suffrage and pain and carnage and disgustingness? And die like Bill Gates, who's going to have to suffer on his way out. I choose light. I sure did. And I'll do it again. And I hope you guys do too. But that was the entirety of the return of Christ. I was wrong before because it wasn't done yet. And I didn't know. This is my awakening. Just like I've said, you guys watched my life play out. It's my own awakening as well. And I just encourage you to know the truths, and in hopes that you would choose light. But it's up to you. I will never force anybody because I don't want false light through my doors. How about you? Be careful of those who are around you. It came out in my last videos. They said it in the Nile and in the one of Revelations, is that people around you will try to take you out. So just be careful what you're listening to. Be careful. Pay attention, because there's 12 gates. You must 13 where you will be tested, light or dark. And it has to do with where you've chosen dark before. So it's difficult. It's your weaknesses. It is what addictions or whatever that may be. Okay, and so it's not an easy choice. It is you literally choosing to better yourself, to heal what you've done before, and to call your power back from each lifetime. I'm waiting for those who get to make it. I'm happy because Christ has returned. And darkness can get the boot right out the damn door. So much love to all of you. I'm so excited. Have a beautiful day. I'll see you later.